Okay, this video is going to be the second half of the slope-intercept form video. Remember, y equals mx plus b is how we write it out, and we call it slope-intercept because the m is the slope and the b represents the y-intercept. That's where the graph crosses the y-axis. So again, this was our example in that first video. We have this graph, it crosses the y-axis right here. It intersects the y-axis at -3. That's because the x value of this coordinate is 0 and the y coordinate is -3. That's here, -3. And then the slope is the coefficient in front of the x, and that's the rise and the run, or the change in y over the change in x. So 2, +2 over +1 is 2. All right, so now let's take a look at a couple questions that you might see. Let's say you have to write an equation of a line that goes through the points 0, -2, and 3, 0. Okay, first off, if you're ever given 2 points, then you can find the slope, okay? Remember, the slope, or we call it m, equals, okay, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's the slope formula, okay? It's also understood as the change in y over the change in x, okay? So if we start by working that out, then we're looking at these points here. Remember, we have our x1 and y1, our x2 and y2. Okay, so if we plug this into the formula, we would say 0 minus -2, which would become 0 plus 2. So 0 plus 2 over, and then 3 minus 0. So 3 minus 0, and when we work that out, we get 2 over 3. So our m equals 2/3. If we know that, then we're halfway to our equation in slope-intercept form. Y equals 2/3. So we would say y equals the slope of 2/3 x. It's y equals mx. And now we're looking for our plus b. Okay, remember, plus b represents the y-intercept. That's where the x, or where the axis crosses the y, where the graph crosses the y-axis, because x is 0. Well, notice in one of your points here, the x is 0. X is 0 and the y is -2. Well, this right here is your y-intercept, okay? And then even more than that, this number right here is your plus b. It's -2. So we would just write -2. So instead of writing that plus b, let me erase that. That becomes -2. So our equation is y equals 2/3 x minus 2. And that is the equation that we can write just from knowing that the graph crosses these 2 points on the graph. Okay, let's take a look at another one. This says to also write an equation of a line represented by the following table, okay? Well, if you have a table, you can find the slope. All right, remember the slope is the change in y, okay? So I'm gonna write it like this. It's the change in y over the change in x, okay? So let's look at our table. We have our x values and our y values. These are our coordinates, 0, 2, 1, 7, 2, 12. So let's just find the change in y over the change in x. And we could use any of them. Let's go this way. Let's say 12 minus 7. What is 12 minus 7? 5. So that's the change in y over the change in x. If we started with 12 and subtracted 7, then we're going to start with 2 and subtract 1. And 2 minus 1 is 1. So 5 over 1. So our slope then equals 5. So our equation we already know is going to be y equals 5x, because that's our slope. The coefficient 5 in front of this x represents the slope, 5x, and then plus b. Well, again, remember the plus b part of the equation. The plus b part represents the coordinate when x is 0. What is y? Well, here you have a x of 0 and a y of 2. So again, in this table, you are given the y-intercept, 0, 2. So instead of writing plus b, we would write plus 2. So we would write y equals 5x plus 2. And that is going to be our equation. Or our, that is the equation that we get from this table, and this equation say the same thing. This equation describes this table. All right, and that will be the end of the videos for slope intercept form. Remember, on the practice problems that you have on today's assignment using Delta Math, each and every one of those questions, you can access a video to help you understand more how to solve the problem. Please take advantage of those.